Hi, in today's video I would like to give you a small spring tour in my garden. So the weather is changing to a better side right now and we are having some nice days with warmer weather. So the plants are going to grow a little bit more. In the past few weeks it was quite cold in this area, but I almost planted out all my transplants during the springtime, so the garden is 90% planted right now. So I just would like to show you how my beds and plants are looking in this time of the season and give you a quick tour in the garden. So I made a few new beds here. These are small raised beds, and I made this small trellis system because I would like to grow some runner beans, which I didn't do last season. So I made this very simple trellis system for some runner beans. And in this small raised bed I already planted spring onions and some leeks as transplants. So I like to transplant them out in small clusters or small clumps, and they really like to grow this way. And between the two different onions I have some Swiss chard transplants. And here I will transplant my runner beans in this section, and they will climb up to this nice trellis, and it will make a really nice site during the summertime. So I will give you an update on that in a few weeks time as well. And in the next bed it's still empty right now, but I'm planning to transplant some cauliflowers, and hopefully I can do this today. So this bed will be planted with the cauliflowers. And if you come a little further, in this bed I already planted some leaf vegetables. So they have been covered with fleece in the past few weeks because of the cold weather. We had some frost during the night times, so I think for the past 30 days we had like at least 20 frosts during the night. So the fleece cover is very helpful for this time of the season. I have 5 different varieties of Selenova lettuces, which is a great lettuce. It grows really fast, and we can start harvesting these different varieties in about 3 or 4 weeks. So I really like these quick growing varieties. And in the other section of the bed I have some transplanted spinach, which also looks really fine and really healthy. So we can also start harvesting these spinaches in a few weeks time. So let's go and see the other beds in the garden. I have 3 beds growing all different types of brassicas. As you can see next to the bed, it's covered with fleece, so I'm constantly covering it. One reason is climate, so they really like the microclimate under the fleece, and the other reason is flea beetle, obviously. So it's really important if you are growing any kind of brassicas, any region or country in the world, as far as I know, you will find flea beetles, so it's really important to cover them. So you can either use fleece, which is good for spring and autumn time, but in the high summer you would like to use insect netting because that's much better instead of the fleece. So let's see what I'm growing in this brassica bed. I have different types of kohlrabis. I have 3 different varieties. They are all quick growing varieties, and actually these are 3 different colors. So I have light green, I have yellow, and or rather it's not yellow, it's white, and very bright white color, and I have a purple variety. So we will have a really nice range of different kohlrabis. And if we go further, I have just a few Bok Choy transplanted here, which is really quick growing, so we can start harvesting these in less than a month. And next to the Bok Choys, I have some spring cabbages, which is also a quick growing variety. It's called Parel. And I have some other types of cabbages. So here I have first some red cabbages, which is we really like them, and it's a really great crop, and it can be also grown as an ornamental crop because it looks great when they have these huge leaves. And next to the red cabbages, we have some Savoy cabbages. These are not all that popular in every country throughout the world, but in Hungary it's a very popular vegetable, so we like to grow them. And in the last section of this bed, I have some heading broccolis or calabres, and yeah, these are planted to a bigger spacing because we will have quite huge plants, so they will grow as a smaller bush, and we will have these nice compact broccoli heads. At least we hope we will have them in the first part of the summer. So let's see what else is growing here in the next beds. Really small section of garlic, which is only 2 meters. I planted them in 3 rows, and I planted them maybe the last week of November. So they just started to grow, really grow in the springtime, but they are looking fine. And as you can see on the surface of the bed, I put down some organic fertilizer in the past few weeks to give them some extra boost and some nutrients, because garlic really demands good nutrients. And in the next section I have some fava beans or broad beans, and I direct seeded these. So as you can see here in this small section, I had some loss due to the mole cricket. So that's why I prefer to grow most of my plants as transplants, because in that case I'm always growing more transplants than I need, so I can replace the losses afterwards, the planting. But here it was direct sown, so I have to live with these losses. Here it's not too much, fortunately, so it will be still a nice crop, and it just popped out a few weeks ago. But if you are growing fava beans or broad beans, you should make sure to sow them or plant them really early in the season, because they like to be planted, depending on your region, very early. So let's go to this next bed, because after the last section of this bed after the fava beans is still empty. That's the only empty bed which I have here right now in the garden last week of April. And it will be planted with celery and celeriac in maybe 2 weeks' time. So let's see the rest of the beds, which we have on the right to me. And in this first bed I have some transplanted onions. There are maybe 6 or 7 different varieties. And I like to grow my onions as a transplant, and it's really good because after I transplanted them out, I like to transplant maybe 4 or 5 in a small cluster, and I can start harvesting the first ones from the side, and I will keep 2 or 3 onions for a later harvest, which will grow to a bigger size. So it's a great way to grow your onions. In this section I have all different kinds of red onions, scallions, I have shallots, so different varieties. I like to have a really nice range of onions because we cook with them and we also use them for salads. And right after the onions we have 2 different types of lettuces. So I have romaine lettuce and I have head lettuce. They are also growing fine. I covered them with fleece for around 2 weeks after transplanting because of the cool weather, but right now I uncovered them and they are looking just fine. And if you come further, right after the lettuces, I have some beets transplanted here. So I also like to transplant my beets and I have two different varieties here. The yellow beet is the variety is Boldor, and the purple one is Boro. They are all very fine varieties, growing really quickly. And I like to transplant my beets because, as you might know, when you are sowing one seed, you can have 2 or 3 plants coming out from that seed. So it's much easier for me to grow them as a transplant, and if I have more seedlings than I need, I can just thin them out before I do the transplanting, and in that way I have very good spacing, and yeah, I have very good results with transplanting the beetroots. And after the beetroots, in the last bed here, I have some direct sown crops. So here I have carrots. I sowed them in 4 rows, and in this last section I have some parsley root, which is a very important vegetable to Hungarian cuisine, so we like to grow them as well. It's a very slow germinating crop, so it needs like 3 weeks at least to germinate, and unfortunately you can't really transplant these crops because you won't have nice root which you can harvest, so you always have to direct seed the carrots and parsley root and also parsnips. So these are some of the crops which you can always have to direct seed, so that's what I do here. As you can see, they are already germinated very nicely. I have some dense areas in these rows, but I can thin them out later, so it's quite fine like this. And in the last bed, on this side, I have 2 different peas. I have some sugar snap peas, and I also covered my peas after transplanting, because I also transplanted these peas, and I covered them with fleece for at least 3 weeks after transplanting, and as you can see, they are really nice and strong right now. And I just put down these stakes. These will give them some support, because these sugar snap peas will grow a little bit higher compared to the dwarf varieties. I've been growing some dwarf varieties last season, but this season I'm going to grow these sugar snap peas, and they will need some support because they will grow at least 1 meter tall in our climate. So this is the field beds which I have here in the garden right now, and let's go inside the greenhouse and let's see what's growing in the greenhouse at this time of the season. So as you can see already, we have lots of plants inside the greenhouse. We have some plants in pots, we have the beds, and we also have my nursery tables. So let's start from here. I already shown you in the previous video how I build these DIY nursery tables, and they are performing very well. And here on this first table I have my summer vegetables. So I have some tomato transplants which are looking really fine. As you can see, I have some nice good sized tomato transplants which will be transplanted out in less than 2 weeks. And I have some eggplants or aubergines and peppers as well, sweet peppers. They are a little bit smaller right now, but it's still okay. I am planning to only transplant them in the second part of May, so they still have around 1 month to grow to a bigger size when I'm going to transplant them out. And on the next table I have different transplants growing. I have some radishes here, which I will be transplanting very soon in a few days. And here I would like to show you a very nice technique. So if you even if you don't have a garden, you can grow some crops for yourself. So as I already mentioned, I'm always growing more transplants for a planting than I would need. And after I still have some extra transplants, if it's like a lettuce, I like to give them another chance and grow them in small pots. So as you can see, I have these medium-sized pots here, and if you have a good potting soil, you can successfully grow different kinds of quick growing vegetables like these lettuces, these different Salanova varieties. And yeah, you don't even need a garden, and you can have your own nice vegetables. And I have these really nice cauliflower transplants here, which I'm going to plant out in my new bed, as I already mentioned. I have real nice celery and celeriac transplants. They are really slow to grow, so if you are new to growing your own transplants, these might need more patience, and you need to look after really well for these transplants. So the celery and celeriac transplants are a little bit slower to grow, but really good crops, so I recommend to try it. And in these last trays I have I have some onions and different herbs and some annual ornamental crops, some different kinds of flowers for other beds. And let's see what's growing in the greenhouse right now. So as you can see, we have these loads of pots here, which are containing different types of tubers and different ornamental plants, so like dahlias and cannas and different kinds of ornamental plants. So it's for different purposes, not just for consuming these vegetables, but I would like to also grow some plants for another kind of pleasure. But let's concentrate right now on the vegetables. So in this first bed, we can start from here, from the back. We have 5 different vegetables growing. Most of it was sown autumn time, so they overwintered here in the greenhouse. So first we have this really nice mesclun mix, which is a lettuce mix. It's a really great crop. It overwinters really well, as you can see, and we've been harvesting it for a long time. It yields a lot, and I always just come out here every morning and just cut with a knife a nice handful of salad, which we can consume during the day. So it's a really great crop, and it overwinters really well, so I really recommend to try out these different lettuce mixes or mesclun mixes you can find at different companies, seed companies. And in the next small section I have overwintered carrots, which have really nice foliage, almost ready to harvest. As you can see, we have really nice small carrots right now, so they are looking just fine. And in the next section I have baby chard. I direct seeded it in 6 rows, as you can see, and it already looks really nice, and it has these really pretty looking small leaves. I will wait them to grow around 7-8 centimeters or 3 inches, and we will start harvesting it mainly for salads or green smoothies. So it's a great crop for these kind of purposes. So I don't want to grow them for medium or big size leaves, but rather just for baby leaves. That's why I sowed it in very densely for 6 rows. So after the red chard we have this spinach, which is not looking the best right now because we just had a deep cut maybe 10 days ago, and we harvested loads of the spinach. We cooked with them, and we also put some in the freezer, so it's going to go out really soon. And in the last section of this bed we have this really nice vegetable, which is already going to seed and flower. As you can see, it's called the winter purslane, which is a great overwintering leaf vegetable. So I also transplanted these in small clusters during autumn time, and it overwintered here, and we've been harvesting a ton. So it's a really great crop for salads and smoothies and stuff like that. So, but right now it's pretty much over, so I will just take it out, and the tomato transplants will come to this place. And let's see the last bed here in the garden. So in the first section, as you can see, I have really nice looking spring onions, and I planted onion sets here. And I planted them really densely, so 5 rows, as you can see, and the onion sets are almost touching each other, because it's only for spring onions, so I don't want to have like real nice big onions, only spring onions. So in that way I'm growing them really densely, so we will have more to harvest. And in the continuation of this bed we have radishes and some salad turnips as well. They are also looking fine. Direct seeded here around 3 weeks ago, and I can start harvesting maybe 10 days. And in the last section of the bed I have another overwintered crop here, some transplanted leeks. They're looking just fine but really slow to grow, so during the winter time they were just sitting here mainly, but now we have this nice spring weather, they started to grow. And a really good technique I would like to show you right here is interplanting different types of crops. So which I have here, these leeks are growing in 4 rows, and I interplanted the leeks with these small lettuce transplants, and they can grow together really fine, and we will have more to harvest from this small section of the bed. So as you can see, I still have some free space between these leek plants, and I will also put some radish transplants here, which I just showed you on my nursery table. So those radish transplants can come between these leek rows, and we can harvest some more vegetables from this small area. So interplanting is a really good way of utilizing a small space in a small garden. So that's the spring tour right now in the last week of April from my garden. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you have any questions, feel free to comment. And if you would like to see more content like this, subscribe to our channel, follow us on Facebook and Instagram, and I will see you in the next video.